Good morning, and welcome to Day 2 of the 2022 Virtual Federal Student Aid Training Conference. We look forward to another fruitful day. I'm pleased to introduce today's keynote speaker, the Honorable Miguel Cardona. Secretary Cardona grew up in Connecticut, where he attended public school and developed a deep commitment to education. He earned 3 degrees over time, receiving his doctorate in education from the University of Connecticut. For 2 decades, he served his hometown of Meriden, first as a 4th grade teacher in the public schools, and then as the youngest principal in Connecticut at the age of 27. In 2012, he won the National Distinguished Principal Award for the state of Connecticut and the Outstanding Administrator Award from the University of Connecticut's NEAG School of Education. After 10 years as a principal, he moved to the district level as the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning. In 2019, Secretary Cardona was appointed to serve as the Commissioner of the Connecticut State Department of Education. In the face of the COVID-19 emergency, he leveraged the power of partnerships to lead safe school reopening efforts while balancing local autonomy with oversight and guidance. Under his leadership, Connecticut achieved its highest ever extended graduation rates for English learner students and students with disabilities. He set a requirement for high schools to provide courses on Black and Latino studies, the first of its kind in the nation, and oversaw the launch of Connecticut's FAFSA data dashboard, which provides real-time FAFSA completion data for districts and schools to promote college or career school preparedness, which is a topic dear to our hearts here at FSA. During his tenure as the 12th U.S. Secretary of Education, Secretary Cardona has shown both his commitment to creating opportunity and his skills in crisis management. Both have been crucial as educators grapple with the challenge of making sure students can thrive despite the pandemic. In recent months, we've seen him stand with President Biden to announce student loan debt relief, reflecting his focus on keeping higher education affordable and available to all Americans. We can all see the dedication and care that Secretary Cardona has brought to his work as a lifelong educator. He has also made it abundantly clear that we have his full support for our important work at FSA as we update the FAFSA form, return borrowers to repayment of their student loans as smoothly as possible, and stress performance and accountability from schools and student loan servicers. Secretary Cardona, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Rich, for that kind introduction and for your tremendous leadership. Today I'm speaking as your Secretary of Education, but that's not all. I'm also speaking as a former first-generation college student, a student not so unlike those you serve each day, a student of color from a working-class community raised by a close-knit Puerto Rican family. I often say, I grew up rich, I just didn't have a lot of material possessions. My parents and grandparents never made a lot of money, but they always made me feel like I could be anything I wanted to be. I went to college because I wanted to be a teacher, but I had no idea how many doors higher education would unlock for me. I never imagined that someday I would lead a school, a district, a statewide K-12 system, and then the United States Department of Education. Or that in 2022 I would drop my own son off at college and drive away with tears of pride in my eyes. As Secretary, I'll never be complacent so long as my story is the exception and not the norm. To all the financial aid officers here today, thank you for stepping up for students hit hardest by the pandemic. Using American Rescue Plan funds, you delivered financial lifelines to keep them enrolled and keep them on track. Here's my fear. As we leave crisis mode, leaders run the risk of getting too comfortable or too complacent. We risk returning to the higher education system we had in March 2020. That wasn't good enough then, and it's certainly not good enough now. We face major challenges. College remains unaffordable. Dishonest schools too often haven't been held accountable, and outcomes are not equitable. Too many students, and especially students of color, never make it to commencement day. They wind up deep in debt with no degree and fewer pathways to prosperity. That's unacceptable. That's why we're raising the bar for how we invest in community colleges, HBCUs, MSIs, state and tribal colleges, and other inclusive institutions so you can invest in equity and college completion. Affordability is a big piece of the puzzle. Earlier this year, we secured the largest Pell Grant increase in a decade. But we know it's still not enough. President Biden has called on Congress to double Pell by 2029. That would be game-changing. Just imagine how many students we could spare from burdensome debt. We can't go back to having 1 million borrowers default each year. Look, getting a college degree or certificate should lift you up, not weigh you down. Our team is undertaking a historic effort to reimagine a student loan system that's more affordable and more accountable. Our efforts to simplify programs and cut red tape are paying off in big ways. Already, we've identified 1.7 million borrowers eligible for $38 billion in debt relief, including students who were cheated by their schools, people eligible for public service loan forgiveness, borrowers with permanent disabilities, and others too. We got all this done before President Biden announced his plan to discharge up to $20,000 for 40 million borrowers nationwide. And make no mistake, we will continue to fight for relief in the courts and put working families first. We must avoid the default rates of the past and help borrowers succeed. That's why we're making repayment more affordable than ever. Today's borrowers and tomorrow's students will benefit from dramatically lower payments and a smoother path to forgiveness after 20 years. Loans can help students reach their dreams, but they're also an important tool for our department to identify abuses in higher education. President Biden has been very clear. We need affordability and accountability. We're streamlining relief for borrowers who've been cheated by their colleges and taking steps to protect students from worthless degrees and unaffordable debts. Higher education brought the promise of America alive for me and for many of you. Together, we must renew that promise. Together, we must collaborate intentionally and embrace strategies that improve outcomes. Together, we must raise the bar for inclusivity, affordability, and accountability in higher education. That's how we'll deliver real equity and upward mobility together. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.